Good evening, my name is Elhadji Ahmadou Demba Gahn. I am a Mines alumni. I participated during a workshop on civic education in 2015 in Tunisia. I will let my colleague introduce herself.
Good evening, my name is Dr Kelebemang. I am from Botswana. I am a Mines alumni. I participated in the Mines scholarship in 2021.
We are with Dr Moyo. We'll give him the mic. Dr Moyo, can you tell us who you are?
I'm Nkosana Moyo, you just said it. Nkosana Moyo. I started Mines almost 15 years ago now. And that's why we are here, because we are still carrying on with the programs that we envisaged then. Because clearly the job is still a long way off being achieved. It's a lifelong program and beyond, actually. So hopefully it's an institution that will outlive me and those who follow me.
Dr. Moyo, it's inspiring. Can you tell us what inspired you to start Mandela Institute for Development Studies?
The state of the continent was the reason for starting Mines. My observation was that post-independence, Africa was not achieving the improvement to the quality of life of its citizens that the liberation leaders had promised. And so my view was that we need to create a circumstance, a platform where we can interrogate why it is that all those promises have not been fulfilled. In an attempt, if we understand the diagnostic as to why, then we can fix what is not working to try and achieve better results.
Yeah. What gap did you see in African leadership on specific the landscape of development, and that Mines was created to fill?
You know, I would rather frame it slightly differently. I don't think we should be attributing the lack of success to the quality of leadership. If I go out and design a house, without exception, when we implement, you draw a house and an architect does that for you. But when you start implementing, there will always be something that is not quite as you thought it would be, which needs to be reconfigured. So I think the journey of implementing what our leaders promised, we have to accept as a natural reality that some elements will not work out as we thought they would, and we should always review, revise, reconfigure, and implement differently after correcting what is not working.
Yeah, we will talk about the journey so far. I will pass the floor to my colleague.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Dr. Moyo, you spoke about the reason why you started the Mines. It was the state of the African continent. Now, this leads me to a question. What has been some of the key milestones or defining moments that have shaped the Mines as it is today?
So, state of the continent. I think, very few people disagree that when we fought for independence, we were fighting injustice. And we recognized that our people were being treated like second-class citizens. Their quality of life was as consistent with being treated as second-class citizens. And the promise was, we're going to remove all of this so that our societies can appear, not just appear to be, but become more equitable. But when you looked at at least sub-Saharan African countries, arguably, subject to debate, actually some of the countries have even regressed. In other words, and it's a sad observation to say, during the colonial period, there are things that were actually working better than where we are today. There are mitigating circumstances because during that time, our resources were being applied to support the livelihoods of fewer people than we are doing today. So there are circumstances. But I think the outturn of where we are is much worse, in my opinion, than where we should be, even after adjusting for these mitigating circumstances. So, but what is even more disappointing for me is that I'm not sensing that we are engaging with that reality. We are behaving as if everything is okay, but evidently not everything is okay. But if we don't interrogate it and do a diagnostic, how do you fix it? If you can't define the problem, you cannot fix it. So we have to have the diagnosis exercise in order to then say, okay, this is where we have to panel beat in order to go in a different direction.
Interesting. Dr. Moyo, you spoke of the fact that countries have regressed.
Yeah.
And I'd like to now talk about this is the Jua reality. But now let's talk about the positives, especially when it comes to the mind scholars. What has been some of the responses from the scholars, the alumni and the partners who are within the mind ecosystems? What have been the positive changes that we can point at this moment?
So before I respond to that, I have to tell you about how we configured some of the activities that Mind was going to engage with, and therefore what we are engaging with. So you observe, if you look at the leaders who were leading us to transition from pre-colonial to post-colonial, you will notice certain issues about them. They knew each other personally. A lot of them had met at institutions of higher learning. So institutions like Fort Hare, Makerere, Fuara Bay in Sierra Leone, these people were people who didn't just relate to each other technically. They actually related to each other personally because they knew each other. They had opportunities at these institutions to debate the challenges. As a result, when they were leading the exercise for liberating Africa, they did it on a Pan-African basis. They understood that working together, the job would be easier to execute. But again, if you just take that one dimension of Pan-Africanism and solidarity, you notice that after their crop went, the spirit of that connectedness has been lost. And it's, again, I do a kind of, I've got a hypothesis. Because they had met personally, the people who are leading Africa now don't have the same background of knowing each other at a very personal level. They know each other officially. They meet at the AU, they meet in New York, but they don't know each other personally to look at you and say, I know you, we can have a conversation because we've had those conversations before. So what we set out to do with the scholarship program was to recreate the leaders of tomorrow who are going to be leading our countries, to create that foundation for them, where when you're solving Africa's problems, you're going to tap on each other's energies, leverage each other's different insights and work as a team. That's what the scholarship, that's why we said, we shall create an opportunity to support people to study on the African continent, but not in their own country. That way you create Pan-African networks, which you can then tap into to solve Pan-African problems.
Such profound, to recreate the leadership of yesterday. And I can attest to that as a Mind alumni, the very fact that I can connect with a fellow alumni in South Africa, in Ghana, in Kenya, and work collaboratively. So these are some of the ways that Mind has contributed in shaping the new generation, particularly the Mind's ecosystem. Now I can give on to my colleague to take on some of the questions for Dr. Moyo.
Thank you, Dr. Moyo. You're talking about the vision and how you contributed creating the fellowship, and the fellowship is sourcing and supporting future leaders for Africa. I would like to know the challenges and the lesson learned. Every impactful journey has its challenge. What have been some of the most significant challenges you have faced at leading Minds?
Well, there are some which are obvious challenges, and there are others which are kind of surprising challenges. So the first one is resourcing. Clearly, exercises like this require resourcing. And we have found it very challenging to get those Africans who actually have got resources to understand the importance of building African institutions, who have got, I think I would say, first-hand information and experience of what needs to be solved. And it's very interesting because we are still, and I use a collective we, as a people, are still not totally free of the aftermath of colonization. Remember that the colonization exercise was about brainwashing the subjects of colonization into admiring the colonizer and they're trying to replicate the world of the colonizer as the aspirational world. So if you were colonized by the French, you aspired to be French. And in fact, they created a track to you becoming French. Portuguese similarly. The Brits didn't do quite the same, but they created the impression that their world was the desired world. That success actually was synonymous with getting as close as possible to being a Brit without becoming one. Now, it means that our mindsets up to today, including those of us who've got resources, they are still trying to buy what I call membership of the clubs of these former colonial masters. They want to be members in those clubs. They don't see value in creating our own clubs. Not yet. Because their perception of what success looks like, their perception of their own credibility still lies in attempting to create the image of the colonizer. That's, you see, I'm saying that not in a judgmental way. This issue of diagnostics, if you're going to solve a problem, you need to diagnose it as accurately as you can, because then you can exercise whatever corrective measures you need to exercise to get it sorted out. So it's sometimes painful to have to admit that we are still damaged in this sense, but it is a reality. It is a reality. And an interesting aside, if you like, aside but related. When we created Minds, one of the hypotheses that we had was that until Africans value their own heritage, we will be like people trying to build a castle on sand. And I use that expression because we are trying to build on a foundation that is not firm enough. Why is it not firm enough? You cannot be who you are not. And we are trying to develop our own people, but by pretending to be somebody else. We are not trying to modernize ourselves. We are trying to replicate somebody else. Yeah, you understand the difference? For instance, if you go to Japan, you will encounter a modern state. You go to Germany, you will encounter a modern state. You go to France, you encounter another modern state. But all of them are idiosyncratically, the one will be Japanese, the other will be German, and the other French. Although they are all modern, but they are not the same.
They're not the same.
Africa, on the other hand, is trying to recreate either France or the UK or Belgium or whatever. But that cannot be our foundation. We'll succeed when we build on our own foundation, on who we are. So when we try to do research on African heritage, we then go to our institutions of higher learning, universities. But the professors in these institutions who should be helping us do the research, firstly, who made them a professor? How did they become to be a professor? And they're wanting to stay true to the institutions that essentially is enslaving them mentally. That's the only way they feel that their whole essence, who they are, was defined by these institutions. So when you ask them to do research which reconnects Africans to their own heritage, they can't write in a manner that is not acceptable to their former institution that made them. So as a result, what they write is totally indigestible by the people who it's supposed to be meant for. It's digestible by the colonizer, because that's the credibility they want to, identity they want to maintain. So it's a long journey.
Yeah, it's a long journey.
It's a long journey.
Very insightful. I want to finish with one question. Are there any particular moment or experience at Minds that have staying with you? One that reaffirmed me why you should start this journey?
I think that when I engage, because remember, because of the demographics of the continent, we also made a determination or what can I call it? What our strategy was that everything that we do must be targeted to young people. Because the young people are the majority of the continent. The demographics tell us that.
Yeah.
But similarly, young people, all of us, not just young people, all of us, where you are in your life today, you are a product of the journey you've traveled. You are a product of the experiences you've gone through. So similarly with young people, actually, although they superficially react to what they don't like, they are not always clear how to disconnect from it. It's a bit like, it's interesting. When you look at children go through a phase where they rebel against their parents because, that's the nature of the beast, so to speak. But isn't it fascinating that as they become adults, they become much more like their parents? Have you noticed that? Yeah? They rebel when they're growing through a particular phase.
Yeah.
But the older they get, the more they reveal that actually they internalized the environment that created them.
Yeah.
They just start reflecting where they've come from. So the human journey is exactly the same. So young people who are rebelling against the dysfunctionality of the continent actually deep down are not clear who themselves are. And you look at them, you listen to the way they structure their arguments, and you find that they're actually going to just replicate.
You young are the future. We talk about the future of mind. I will hand the floor to my colleague.
Absolutely. Oh, Dr. Moyo. It's truly an honor and pleasure to always sit under your wisdom. I always wish I could. I was telling someone the other day, I wish I could get into your library and read the books that you've read. Perhaps I'll also be as wise as you. So, Dr. Moyo, now let's move on to the question of legacy.
But before you move there, let's stick with the books issue, the reading issue.
Yes.
Firstly, you need to recognize that a book is somebody else's opinion. A book is somebody else's opinion. Therefore, be very careful when you read. Read very critically. Be open to saying, I agree with this, I don't agree with this. Because a book is an opinion. It may be very well researched, but nevertheless, it is an opinion, it is an interpretation. My own view is that you need to be sufficiently curious in your own right to observe the real life around you and try to make sense of that life around you. By all means, be widely read. I'm not saying don't read. I'm saying read, but the same way that you listen to me, I am talking to you on the basis of my own reflections on the journey I have traveled. But my truth is not necessarily your truth. Therefore, you have to distill what you hear from me, see whether it aligns with your own experiences, and take the bits that you think align and say to the others, I'm sorry, but okay, my observation is different from yours. And it's quite legitimate. And I think it's that curiosity and the critical consumption of what is out there that will make you, in my opinion, a better creator of a different future. So be a discerning consumer of what is out there, whether by whatever media, you be critical and analyze it for yourself.
Such interesting deliberations, Dr. Moyo. And I think it answers the last question, which was about what would you say to young Africans that aspire to lead and drive change across the continent? Dr. Moyo says, read, but read critically, interrogate. Don't just take things at face value. Now back to the question of legacy, Dr. Moyo. As Mind marks 15 years, what are your reflections on the legacy it's built and it continues to build across the continent?
Yeah. Firstly, I actually don't think about legacy, and that's the honest truth. But if you ask me to think through and see how I would best encourage young people to go forward, I would say remember one thing. One thing that is absolutely certain about life is that there is constant change. What does constant change really mean? It means the future is going to perforce be different from the past and the present. It has to be, okay? And therefore, when you interact with somebody like me, I have got a different experience, and it's almost like living through the rearview mirror, right? Because I'm the sum total of the journey I've traveled. So the bulk of my experience is in the past, which I'm arguing is not going to be replicated into the future. The present connects the past and the future, so to speak. The future as it evolves, and the past as it goes back. So you absolutely have to be careful when you say legacy, what you are saying to yourself. If you use my formulation to react to what is coming from what is evolving as you move into the future, you run the risk of trying to replicate what is gone. So when you interact with somebody like me, you need to try to understand the experiences I've had, moderate what is coming on the basis of what I might have learned, which may be applicable to what is evolving, but be very clear that the bulk of what is evolving is likely to be different from what is gone past. So legacy with care, okay? Treat legacy with care. It's the past, not the future. But yes, certain lessons can be crystallized and drawn from the past, but just always be careful to understand that what is constant is change. The future, therefore, is likely to be significantly different from the past. Don't tie yourself into knots wanting to replicate the past.
Profound. Truly profound. Dr. Moyo, in his own words, you are a total sum of your past, or the life that you've lived in the past. Now, Dr. Moyo, let's talk about vision. In the next 15 years, the vision of mind.
So you are an alumnus of the two of you are products of two different tracks of Minds activities. The scholarship program, which is meant to create Pan-African networks, which is meant to be creating people who are able to work together. You are a product of another program, which is essentially what we call YPEG, is to do with youth elections and governance. Yeah. Why? Why have we put elections and governance together? Because I think a lot of people don't realize that governance is a product. It's a consequence of decisions that we make at election time. Governance is created by the choices you make in terms of who occupies the positions of leadership. So don't be too fixated on addressing governance, because it's a consequence. Be absolutely fixated on who you elect, who is going to produce the governance. And therefore, when we're looking at where would I hope that a few years from now, what will have changed? I would like I hope and I would like to think that young people will have developed the wisdom to understand causality. Yeah. Understand causality so that you can address your attention and energies to the right places where when you change something there, it's consequential. Other things will follow. If you elect the right people, the consequences will begin to yield the correct results. Yeah? So, and remember that through my own argument, I'm telling you that life moves on, life changes. So I want you to develop the capacity for problem solving. The problems are evolving, which means the skill you need is not to remember. The skill you need is to constantly relearn and identify the challenges more accurately, more properly, so that you can then, using your skills of problem solving, come up with the correct solution for the problems as they change and evolve and so on. Yeah. So don't get tied up on terms of remembering, but develop the ability to crystallize what the problem is, and then the ability to build the correct solution for whatever the problem that is arising is.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moyo. Thought-provoking. Every time I sit under your knowledge, I never know what to do. I've written notes and notes. And now this leads me to the question. It's not part of the questions here, but I'll ask you this and put you on the spot. Dr. Moyo, when are we getting a book from you to have this knowledge, some of us, and I trust a lot of young leaders across the continent, to have this knowledge, to preserve it, to store it, to learn from it as the world moves into where it's moving, different complexities, different changes in what leadership looks like.
It will happen one day.
It will happen one day.
Yes.
It will happen one day.
It will happen one day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moyo. I don't know if you have any closing thought or question that you'd like to perhaps.
No question. It's very inspiring, and I hear about two keywords. The first is continue rethinking, continue relearning, and I guess these are two very important points that he shared it with us, and we also share it with the youth in the continent. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much,
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Moyo. Thank you.
Good.
It's been an insightful and thought-provoking conversation with Dr. Moyo. It's always a pleasure to sit under his wisdom, to learn, to understand, and also to speak about minds, the journey, the challenges, and the vision going forward. If the opportunity ever arrives, if he comes to your country, do attend that meeting, do attend that conference, and corner him, and you will not regret the wisdom that Dr. Moyo carries. Go into the Minds website and learn more about the programs that Minds offers for young leaders across the continent. Thank you very much.